My name's Justin Brown. We're here today at the Greenhouse in the Grosvenor Centre in Northampton. Today I'm here with Tony Clarke. Tony, you are the Green Party National Spokesperson on International and Foreign Affairs. You were a Labour Party politician, a Member of Parliament for Northampton South from 1997 to 2005. Also Director of Northampton Town Football Club for 11 years between 1999 and 2010, and as a General Manager at the club between 2005 and 2008. You've served 3 terms, 12 years in total on Northampton Borough Council, 2 as Labour, 1 as Independent, and 1 term, 4 years on Northamptonshire County Council as an Independent. You've also served as a Special Constable with Northamptonshire Police between 2003 and 2007.
You made me seem old, Justin.
Impressive resume. Tony, first of all, thanks for coming along.
Pleasure.
As a former volunteer police officer, you have experience of being at the sharp end of policing. What experiences stand out for you the most?
I think when I started as a Special Constable, there was a lot more community spirit. Now, of course, what always is going to stand out are the big incidents. You're always going to remember unfortunately, the big brawls, the Friday, Saturday nights when you're trying to keep order on the streets, because they're the issues that get the adrenaline flowing, and they're the things that stick in your mind. But I think for me, it was all of the other police work that never gets spoken about. And I think probably the incident that sticks out the most for me was when I was helping a woman who was a victim of domestic violence, and we were returning to her home so that she could get some clothes for her and a child. And it just felt wrong that she'd been kicked out. The offender, the husband, was still in the house, and we were having to go back to get goods so she could stay in a refuge. And as we were driving up to the house, the child was in the back, and the child says, "Mummy, why are we going back to the fighting house?" And out of the mouths of innocence, but you've got this child there who saw a house as a scene of violence, and you realise that it's all of those behind closed doors crimes. It's all that domestic violence. It's all usually the stuff that for all the wrong reasons tends to get unpunished, where we could make such a difference if we tried to, and that sticks out. But good times, good people. It's changed.
Tony, you were one of many online critics of our Police and Crime Commissioner, Adam Simmons. You, along with several other online critics, used your real name instead of an alias. And as we are aware, Adam Simmons issued a challenge to debate his online critics, courtesy of our local newspaper. We know that he cancelled at the last minute. He issued a video response instead. Now, if Adam Simmons had gone ahead with the debate and you had attended, what would you have said to him in person?
Well, where do you start? I mean, I think the man, Adam Simmons, has made a mockery of our democratic system. He's also belittled our police service. He's made so many mistakes right from the beginning in terms of being seen to reward friends by appointing people, it would seem, without proper procedure being in place. He has then used the position for so many pet projects, things that he is involved in politically, things that he is involved in relation to his faith. And, above all, he has used the office to try to further his own ego. It's not about the job he's doing, it's about, look at me. So, he starts to interfere in trying to say he wants to take over all the blue light services. He wants a free school. These things have got nothing to do with policing. And, the man is a fool, the man is a coward. I use those words absolutely without any problem, because this is the man that said he wanted to stand up to his critics, said he wanted to sit down and talk to us, invited us to come and air our grievance, and then at the last minute cowered away and put out this video and said, well, I've decided not to meet you now. What arrogance, what cowardice. He's done so much damage, not just to the credibility of the police service, but I think also to democracy. Because it doesn't matter how you vote, it doesn't matter if you vote Conservative, Labour, Green, Left Unity, whatever your views are, you still expect that people who are elected will use that office properly, and he's abused that. He's arrogant. He was probably coached by Jim Harker, another shy, arrogant Tory who thinks that just because you've been voted in, that you can do whatever you please and it doesn't matter what public opinion is. And so, I think I'd have tried to get some of that across to him, but I'd have also asked him how it is that at a time when we are told that we've got to cut back on everything, when austerity is such that we're seeing less frontline police officers, we're seeing less services, we're seeing reductions in community officers, support officers, how is it that he can come into office and double the bill of administration in terms of running his office? That's just not defendable. And so, I would have hoped not to have got into a shouting match with him. I would have hoped to have calmly spoke to him, trying to make him absolutely aware that he has damaged the police force, that he's damaged our local democracy, and the best thing he could do was really to quit.
Do you think it would be unrealistic for when the government introduced police and crime commissioners that it was unrealistic to expect people like Adam Simmons to abandon their allegiances to political parties, just like, say, for example, you hanging up a hat and a coat on entering office?
I mean, absolutely. I mean, the Crime and Commissioner Bill, which went through Parliament, was really a joke. It was an absolute mess from start to finish. And that didn't end at the time it left Parliament. It continued all the way through the election, as we found out. If you remember, people like Simon Weston, who had a minor offence when he was a teenager, and others had to withdraw locally. We had Lee Barron, the Labour candidate, had to withdraw for an offence years ago, which would have been meaningless. The bill, the way it's been enacted, the contents of the bill are not fit for purpose. And that meant that it was easy for those that wanted to politicise policing to do so. And that's what he's done. I mean, here was a guy who was, first of all, active within Parliament, working for a Conservative MP. He then came into Northamptonshire as a political assistant with Northamptonshire County Council's Conservative group. He was then appointed as a director, full-time paid officer of the County Council. And for a period of time, we were told that he had become non-political because his post was politically restricted. And he ended up being, at the time, Deputy Director of the Council, Deputy Chief Executive of the Council. And then all of a sudden, overnight, he posts something on his blog saying that he's delighted to have been chosen as the Conservative candidate for the Police Crime Commissioner's election. So that meant he suddenly went from being non-political to again being the candidate for the Conservative Party overnight. And the next thing we heard was that, having given up his job, having told his employer that he could no longer fulfil his job, his duties, because he had become politically restricted, that Jim Harker, his ultimate boss, goes and gives him a 3-month golden handshake for a period of notice that he didn't have to serve. So you end up with this quite open, quite blatant abuse, in my mind, of the system of public money for political purpose, which has then continued on. That's how he started. It started off, in my mind, with the Tory party, Jim Harker himself, thinking that they could abuse public funds. They could use public funds in a way that's not acceptable to most people's minds. And then when in office, he then tries to ensure that all of the people that felt like him, voted like him, were friends of his, who got elected into positions which were unnecessary. We now have an office with an army of media staff. We've got more deputy directors than could possibly be needed. I can't even name them all, there's so many. And that's continued all the way through.